Great. Coach, we're going to go right into questions for you, and we will start with Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald. Susan?
Hey, Coach. How are you?
Good, Susan. How are you?
I am good. As far as Tyler Van Dyke goes, I know everybody's been talking very highly of him, and we just met him really for the first time. He seems like a really nice, kind of a mellow young kid. I wanted to know about his personality. People are saying he's not especially vocal, but he's been doing everything right. How do you bring that out of him? Can you talk about that naturally, and also his style as a quarterback, as far as playing goes?
Well, the part about being vocal, again, we're only on day 2 of a spring practice where really he's getting, the amount of reps he's getting. Derek King is not a insanely vocal person. You don't have to be the Hollywood version of the quarterback that gives a speech that, with the dramatic music playing in the background to be a leader. The first thing that people want to people want to follow a leader who does the things the right way, and that's what Tyler does. He's just so competitive and he's so hardworking. I think his natural personality, I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing over the next 4.5 weeks, is seeing his personality come out. You can see it in our offseason program and in our tug of war drills and things like that. And, now the ball aspect will have a chance to come out. So I think who he is as a person on the field is still a work in progress in a good way.
Coach, we've got Matt Shodell from Canesport. Matt?
Yeah, hey, Manny. A bunch of guys, actually 3 guys already, and we haven't talked that many, have all mentioned Bob Shoop. So I wanted to ask you maybe what's his role, how much will you lean on him, and how nice is it to have a guy with that kind of experience helping you out?
Yeah, I mean, Bob, Bob's great to have in our program. As basically an analyst or a quality control coach or whatever, he's obviously limited in terms of his ability to instruct the players, from a football standpoint. But again, helping us in terms of our game planning, helping us in terms of our self-scouts. He and I have always kind of had philosophically a lot of similarities, and really to take this whole offseason, not just with Bob, but with all the new additions to our defensive staff, and to really sort of open the hood of this defense and to kind of take the engine apart and rebuild it again. And so guys like Bob with his experience and it may just be a phrase, a different way of saying the same thing. That type of experience is invaluable. So he has been a great addition to our program.
Coach, we've got Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny?
Hey, Coach Diaz. Curious, you had a lot of veteran leaders that came back, but from the young group, maybe the freshmen and sophomores. You mentioned Tyler Van Dyke the other day in those offseason workouts, but are there other guys you've been able to identify, particularly at positions like linebacker, defensive end, that you look at and you say, okay, those guys are stepping up from just being guys on the roster that followed older guys to, maybe elevating their game? Yeah,
I see what you're saying, Manny. Look, we're 2 days in of practicing in only helmets, so there are a couple of guys that do pop into mind, but I want to at least put an asterisk next to it, because we're not really quite there yet. I think Corey Flagg has had 2 really good first days at linebacker. I think he's in better shape than he was in the fall and has redefined his body a little bit, and I think that's helping. I think Keyshawn Smith is really making strides at wide receiver. Jafari Harvey and Chance Williams at defensive end. Cam Williams has come back and had a good first 2 days. It's just, like I said, we no one's even hit anybody yet. So I'm encouraged. I'm not discouraged, but we'll know a lot more after Thursday and Saturday. And then really look, and here's the whole thing is, these guys can all do it. It's not a matter of who can do it. It's a matter of who can do it consistently. And I think that's the whole key of going from being a young guy to being an old guy. Young guys make a play, and they think that's good enough that, they have a highlight that they can put on Instagram, and that makes them good enough to think that they're good enough to play. And hell, they can all make plays. That's why they're here. It's not about making a play. It's about who can do their job down after down and be consistently good. And I think that's the transition from being a young guy that flashes, to an older guy that everybody can count on. And those are 2 different things.
Coach, we've got David Ferrones from the Sun Sentinel.
Hey, Coach. I also want to get an Adam El-Gamal update. I understand he opted out toward the end of last fall and then just never opted back in for the spring. Just what's the latest on his status?
Yeah, David, I think you hit it on the head. He's still sort of opted out, and like we have with all of our guys, we respect their decision. And when Adam, feels comfortable to rejoin the program, then he'll be back with us.
Coach, we got David Lake from 24/7. David?
Yeah, Coach, understanding it's only been 2 practices, but still wanted to ask you for your first impressions of the new guys on the coaching staff you're working with now, Coach T-Rob and Coach Aristide, and just your first impressions on how they approach things on the field.
Well, there's certainly a lot of intensity, high energy, good teachers though, and again, even though DVD and Coach Simpson and Jess have been here before, so we kind of know their personality. It's hard not to feel just a renewed spirit on the defensive side of the ball with the 5 individual coaches that we have, and really even with Coach Pack, you go to inside linebackers. I mean, everybody. The whole idea of the spring was everybody getting a little bit out of your comfort zone, and everybody kind of regained the chip on our shoulder that we found and served us so well for 4 years defensively here. So, no, they've been great additions to have. You can really see the attention to detail that they teach with, but at the same time, they drive our guys hard to compete and to not settle for good when great's available.
Coach, we got a couple more for you. We're going to go to Barry Jackson from the Herald. Barry?
Hi, Manny. Wanted to talk about 2 of your new players that you're at least have on the field for the first time in Tyreek Stevenson and Avante Williams. With Tyreek, what skills did he have that intrigued you going back to high school, watching the Georgia tape? What could make him a special corner? And same with Avante. And with Avante, I would add, have those skills resurfaced in his first 2 days, actually being able to practice in more than a year.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek obviously, long body, big, strong individual, has good movement skills. But I think with him, it was really the competitive excellence. And when you talk about going back to when he was in high school, and we had 7-on-7 camps, and the guy was just the best player on the field, and it was just obvious. And he knows it, and I think he's got great self-confidence. What's been fun to me to watch him in the first couple of days is teaching some of the younger corners, and sort of giving back, and that's being a team guy. And I think it's been really encouraging to see the way he's fit into that mold. With Avante, it's funny. Avante, you think about him being 2 practices into his college career. It's funny when you asked the question, I thought about Jalen Phillips this week a year ago, where we barely saw anything in 4 days. And then he had, of course, had the season he had. And I'm not saying Avante is going to do the same thing that Jalen did, but it's really, really early for Avante. But certainly you see he plays 100 miles an hour. Like the pedal is, when Avante's on the field, it is pushed down through the floorboard, and that's encouraging. He goes full speed. Now, he may not always be going to the right direction in full speed, but that's why they call us coach, and we'll get him turning the right way. So, been fun to see him out there, and I know he's anticipating putting shoulder pads on Thursday so we can run into things.
2 more for you, Coach. We're going to go to Daryl Streeter of Footballville. Daryl?
So, yeah, simple question. You're back calling plays again. Just talk to us. How does it feel to be back calling plays again?
How does it feel? It feels fun. But it's not as you've heard many coaches say before. How you call the plays doesn't have as much to do with as how the players execute the plays. So it's certainly different at practice, being in a different role. But because of having done it for so long, I think there's sort of a naturalness to it, and it's just fun to get out there and compete again. It's a little bit different vantage point.
Awesome. Last one for you, Coach. We got Chris Stockett inside the U. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I was just curious if you could touch back on Keyshawn Smith. What has he done well these first couple practices? Also, we saw it in flashes last year, but how did he look in practices to you with his development? And then lastly, is there an update on Jeremiah Payton? Has he been out there? I think he posted a picture that he was dealing with an injury last season. I was just curious how he's doing.
Yeah, Jeremiah is still a guy that we think we can progress back to some sort of participation in spring ball, dealing with an injury coming out of last season. So he's not an out for spring guy. He's a guy we're trying to work him back into our lineup. In terms of Keyshawn, I think, it's like with any wide receiver, your first year on campus, you're learning what to do and the consistency of how to do it over and over again. but two things that he can run really fast, and he has a knack for coming up with the football when it's thrown to him. And made a really nice play deep down the field today. And, you know, and again, it was helmet, so DBs weren't quite finishing maybe with the same tenacity they might if we were playing for real. But even in the bowl game, he had a very difficult catch. It was out of bounds on a very hard throw, and so he's got a little bit of that self-confidence in him that when the ball is in the air, it's his. Now, like what I like to do is like to see that scale out over a spring, which will give him confidence into the summer that he could, replicate those things this fall.
Coach, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you all.